Hi, today I want to discuss being diagnosed with an incurable disease and how it pertains to us on a psychosocial level. For you guys that do not know, I am 34 years old. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis on January 30th, 2023. I ask that you bear with me during this video. I'm struggling a little bit with my wording sometimes, finding the correct words or the correct analogy when I'm trying to make things into a sentence. So if you see me pause during this video, that's exactly what I'm doing. My goal here is to bring more awareness to multiple sclerosis, to different diagnoses that may be deemed incurable, chronic diagnoses as well, even life-threatening diagnoses, is to bring more awareness of what the patient may go through on a psychosocial perspective and aspect. So I'm here to not only bring awareness, but to hold space for others that are going through similar diagnoses, whether it's the same or something that's different. That is my goal here today, to bring more awareness to different things of this magnitude in our daily lives. So for my story, my name's Nick. I am 34 years old. Like I said before, I was diagnosed on January 30th, 2023. What led to my diagnosis is January 30th, I woke up and I lost about 90% of vision in my left eye here. I went to the ER with concern about my vision loss. I was worked up. I ended up getting an MRI of the brain and my orbit, which ultimately led to the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. I was in the hospital for 3 days, IV steroids. I was diagnosed with optic neuritis when it came to this left eye. So I was in the hospital for 3 days for IV steroids that help, the inflammation of the optic nerve. Optic neuritis is inflammation of the optic nerve in your eye. So the goal there was to negate the inflammation that was going on in my optic nerve. So going on to what happens emotionally, right, with the diagnosis. The ER doctor that saw me, I can still remember to this day her walking into the room, her face, her expressions, her mannerisms, and her telling me that, she was certain that I had MS, but I needed to be officially diagnosed by the neurologist. That I would be admitted into the hospital. And that was difficult for me, me, also being a nurse. I was not expecting this. I don't think anyone expects diagnoses like this when they do receive them. But my first person that I called was my sister. Was also a nurse. And, it was difficult, to say the least. I think that it may even be an understatement. It was difficult. I talked to her for quite some time, and then I called my mother, and I went up to my room. And I remember that night, not being able to sleep. I was just tossing and turning. I was waiting on the neurologist. I had so many questions in my mind. I want to say my emotional state at the time, I went through something similar of, the 5 stages of the grieving process, as we like to call it. And the first stage is denial. And I went through, I wouldn't say denial, but a very similar aspect of that. And it was more so in an understanding of like, I felt like I was like, maybe in a dreamlike state, um, is this happening to me, is this for real, am I gonna wake up tomorrow and this is just a dream? What is going on exactly? And, I also went through a state of anger as well. I remember the state of anger didn't come until the second day. But I remember meeting the neurologist that morning. Well, I met my PCP, my primary care physician partner in the hospital, which I knew very well, and she came in to see me before the neurologist saw me that next day. And I remember asking her specifically, had she seen my scans and did she think it was MS, and her response was yes. And I remember her telling me that she had went back to my records from 2019, and that she believed that's when it actually had started. When she brought up that moment that I was in the ER in 2019, I had actually agreed with her, when she brought that to my forefront. So as we progressed, I met with my neurologist about an hour later after I saw her, and he was absolutely amazing guy, and I had a absolutely wonderful healthcare team. I'm so thankful for that. He explained a lot of things to me. He went over my scans with me. He showed me my scans. He went over every image, every slice that had a lesion on it. I have 3 active lesions in my brain right now. Multiple other ones that are inactive. And when I say active and inactive, I mean that when they do the MRI on my brain, there are 3 that actually are enhanced by the dye that they inject into your veins. So I have 3 that are enhanced by dye right now, and those would be called active lesions in your brain. The other ones that are there, that are present in my brain, that do not enhance, would be considered inactive lesions in my brain. So I have 3 that are active right now, others that are inactive. The other ones that are inactive would be ones that have occurred at previous times in my life. So, which correlates with the diagnosis of it probably pertaining to back to 2019 is actually when it started. And, I am in agreement with that. Moving forward, the neurologist was absolutely amazing. His whole team was amazing. Very great bedside manner. He went on to show me a lot of my scans and to, order additional testing. I did meet McDonald criteria, and without, a spinal tap, so we decided to not do the spinal tap. Just say, general understanding here. I'm not giving any medical advice or online here, so I just want to put that out there for legal purposes. This is just me purely sharing my story as it pertains to being diagnosed with MS. So moving forward, that was me in that state of, just coming to terms with what was happening in my life. And it is a huge change that you undergo when you're diagnosed with something like this. So I went through that, meeting him for the first time and coming to terms with it in a sense. That next day, I was really, I went through a state of being angry. Because I had, that next morning, I woke up and I decided for whatever reason to ask myself specifically, a question and see if I could, correlate it to, and it took me, and the question I asked myself, there were multiple questions, but the question I asked myself first was, where had I traveled in the past 2 years as far as travel nursing had come to? And it took me about 30 minutes to get everything correct. And I think that was the first moment in my journey that I had actually saw for myself that I could not deny that there was something obviously going on with my brain. And that is like the first day that I cried, that I expressed those emotions, and that I released those emotions. As I went through that, there are other multiple questions that I asked myself, and one of the questions, was, will I ever be a nurse again? That was a difficult question to not only ask myself, but to answer. And I asked myself, if there was an emergency right now, how would I handle it? Would I be able to handle it? And, the answer to that question was no. And that was difficult for me to understand and to process in that moment. And I'm so thankful for the nurse. I had a wonderful nurse that day. I'll never forget her. Her name was Gaia, and she's absolutely beautiful soul. So I went on from that, and I went into a state of, and this is what I mean when I'm saying that it almost imitates the grieving process. Because you are in a essence grieving an aspect of yourself. You are in essence grieving that aspect of yourself that you knew. Your life is forever changed, and it's whether it's up to you if you want it to change for the better or for the worse, but that I will address later on in this video. But your life is forever changed in that moment. And so moving forward, and sorry here, and this is what I mean, like my memory gets like a little bit foggy. I kind of lose track sometimes of what I'm saying, but I'm gonna leave this video unedited and raw. But going back, trying to pick up and remember where I left off here. And sorry if I skip over things here, as coming back to just processing, okay, processing. Where I was with everything. Bargaining, okay. Bargaining. So coming back to bargaining, the state I was in was, I really went into like why is this happening to me? You know, why am I going through this? You know, I've been a nurse for 12 years. Why is this happening to me? I've given so much of my life to help other people. Why am I going through this? You know, and I very much was in that, and this all happened in the same day. I was very much into that emotional state of bargaining with the universe. Like, I did not understand why and what was happening. And it took me a moment to sit with that and realize, you know, and there's a post that I posted yesterday that nothing is ever happening to you, but it's happening for you. And it took me a moment to sit with that and to understand it, that this is not happening to me, it's happening for me. And I know that sounds very strange for a lot of people to understand, but what I'm trying to say here is that things in life that are predestined, our soul's blueprint, right? That are predestined for us, are already mapped out. So it's not that it's happening to us, it's happening for us, because we have already pre-planned this for ourselves in that moment. So that is what I was struggling with that same day, you know, in a combination. And, you know, this is my personal opinion. We can be in multiple stages of that grieving process at one time. So, you know, I was going through the state of anger, bargaining, and depression, you know, at the same time. You know, and so it was me just being, you know, in those multiple stages, you know, at the same time, and trying to bring more understanding, more clarity to what I was going through, because I didn't fully understand what I was going through. And I went through those stages, and I tried to comprehend. Sorry, I got a low battery warning. I tried to comprehend and go through that and try to understand on that soul and core level what exactly was happening. So the last stage of the grieving process is acceptance, and for me that came, you know, acceptance of that disease process, acceptance of, you know, this is not happening to me, but it's happening for me. It's actually a something I designed for myself to go through. Even if I can't understand it on a core level, on a level now, on a conscious level now, that my soul has designed this for me to go through for a specific reason. I'm meant to go through this. Nothing ever happens by chance. I am a firm believer in that. So when I went through this, and when I decided to accept this and to grow from it, to prosper from it, and understand that this is not something that is going to be crippling to me. This is not something that is going to hinder me. You have to, I tell people all the time, your mindset is your biggest challenge when it comes to things like this. So your mindset, yes, allow yourself to process it, okay? Allow yourself to understand the emotion, process the emotion, accept the emotion, live with the emotion, right? Don't not process emotion, because when you get into a state of not processing the emotion, or you try to skip over it, or if you stay stuck in the emotion, you know, I like to give myself personally a amount of time to allow myself to process it. So for me, it was like, you know, hey, I'm gonna give myself 2 weeks to process this. 2 weeks. But after those 2 weeks, I'm going to release these emotions. After those 2 weeks, I'm going to release that and move forward. So, yes, definitely allow yourself to process the emotions. Sit with it. Release it, you know, and then come back. come back to yourself. Don't stay stuck in the energy of living in that. And when I say living in that, I mean living in that energy of, you know, this is happening to me. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And this is all my personal beliefs here, you guys. You know, there's no scientific evidence behind this, it's just me sharing my story. So when I got in the energy of processing it and accepting it and understanding that this is happening for me, this is meant for me to grow from, this is meant for me to actually continue to grow and prosper on a soul level, on an individualized level, and truly realize and accept what I'm going through as not a hindrance, but truly a blessing. And I know that may sound strange for a lot of people, but this is how I view this. It's not I don't really even view it as and I'm trying to choose my words wisely here. I don't really view it as something that is a hindrance to my journey on earth, right? I view it more so as something that is preparing me to move forward in my journey, you know, and that may sound very strange to a lot of people, but it's very much something that will push me to move forward in my journey. When I decide to move forward and consciously make the decision to not let this affect the rest of my life, and when I say that, I mean that on a level of consciously making an effort to say, this is not going to hinder me in any type of way. Our mindset, and I'm going back to this really quickly, our mindset is our mind is our most powerful tool, right? I have MS, okay? If I think I'm going to be in a wheelchair, then I'm going to be in a wheelchair. If I think I'm going to walk until I take my last breath, then I'm going to walk until I take my last breath. Our mind is the tool for that. Once you have given up hope in your mind, that's when your body starts to give up that same hope, right? So I'm a firm believer in, you know, once we have decided in our minds, this is where we'll be, this is how things are going to go for us. It is us putting that energy out into the universe, manifesting that for us. So when you have people that are manifesting that, you know, this disease is going to put me in a wheelchair, this disease is going to do this to me, this disease is going to do that to me, then that is exactly what you're going to receive. My personal beliefs here, but for me, I made a conscious decision and conscious effort that, you know, yes, I have been diagnosed with this, but it does not have to affect me in the magnitude that it may affect other people. I have control over my own body, my own destiny, And what I believe and what I manifest for myself is very important to me. Um, we have the ability to manifest our own realities and situations. So when I take the time to sit down and actually manifest something that is good for me, something that is, hey, I envision this for myself. I envision a bright future for myself. You know, I envision myself being in remission from this disease. You know, there are ways to be in remission from MS for years, you know, for the rest of your life. So if you can envision that for yourself and actually come to terms with that, then that is how you prosper through different illnesses like this, different chronic illnesses, whether it's a life-threatening illness, whether it's a incurable disease that you've been diagnosed with. That disease, that illness does not have to define you, who you are, or who you're meant to be for the rest of your life. You have the opportunity to define that for yourself. And that is where I'm going to leave this at today. And I think, and I truly hope that me sharing my story about my diagnosis will help others as they continue along in their journey with their diagnosis. And I truly wish everyone that has watched this video has gained a little bit from this. And if you haven't taken anything from this, I'll leave you with, our mind is our most powerful tool. Utilize that to your advantage. Just simply thinking something is manifesting that into our energy. So remember that. Yeah, so thank you.